In recent years, something unsettling has been happening to America's once proud network of international airports. Where bustling terminals used to echo with the sounds of travelers from around the globe, many now resemble ghost towns. Iconic American airports, such as those in New York, Los Angeles, and Miami, once gateways to the United States, are now witnessing an alarming drop in international traffic, with some seeing declines as steep as 70 to 80%. This is no small shift, it's a massive transformation that raises questions about America's place in the future of global travel. But what has caused this dramatic decline? To understand it, we need to look at a few key factors, some of which stretch far beyond the aviation industry itself. The United States, historically the most welcoming destination for travelers worldwide, no longer feels like that place of open arms. Under the leadership of Donald Trump, the country's foreign policy took a sharp turn. Visa processes became more arduous, security screenings were heightened, and the general sense of hospitality that travelers once associated with the U.S. began to erode. America, once a land of opportunity and excitement, now felt like a maze of bureaucratic obstacles and barriers. For many international visitors, this shift was felt not just in the policies but in the very atmosphere of the airports themselves. The excitement of stepping off a plane into the United States, once a symbol of prestige, became tainted with hesitation. Whether it's the uncertainty of a delayed visa or the overwhelming complexity of immigration procedures, the joy of travel to America has been replaced with frustration and apprehension. This change has far-reaching consequences. As travel to the U.S. became more difficult, many international visitors turned to other regions for their journeys. Europe, Asia, and the Middle East were quick to capitalize on this opportunity. Cities like Dubai, Singapore, and Munich invested heavily in their airports, creating modern, efficient, and welcoming hubs that not only compete with American airports but surpass them in terms of ease and customer satisfaction. The result? A dramatic shift in global travel patterns. Once the world's go-to destination, the U.S. now finds itself in a fight to retain its place on the global travel map. Meanwhile, countries like Canada are seeing a surge in inbound tourism as travelers from across the world turn to neighboring nations for a smoother, more welcoming experience. Canadian airports like Toronto and Vancouver have risen to prominence as key international gateways, offering seamless connections and fewer hurdles for passengers. In some cases, they've even become more attractive alternatives to U.S. airports. The numbers speak for themselves. International passenger traffic through U.S. airports has plummeted by as much as 80% in some major cities. Once vibrant terminals, where different languages and cultures intertwined, now stand eerily quiet. Airline routes that once connected America to the world are being scaled back, redirected to other hubs where demand is stronger and passengers feel more welcome. The collapse in international travel is not limited to the aviation industry alone. It has started to have a domino effect on entire regions, particularly those that relied heavily on tourism and global business. American cities that were once thriving on international visitors are now experiencing a downturn in both tourism and trade. For instance, in cities like Portland, Oregon, once known for its vibrant airport that offered a unique local experience for travelers, the situation has changed dramatically. Portland International Airport, or PDX, was once celebrated for its progressive spirit, with locally sourced food and craft beer filling the terminal. International travelers loved the warm, quirky welcome it provided. But since 2023, international passenger traffic has dropped by an astonishing 73%. The decline at PDX reflects deeper challenges facing Portland itself, issues related to safety concerns, urban unrest, and negative media coverage. These factors have made travelers reconsider visiting the city, and as the airport struggles to maintain its international relevance, the impact is felt across the city's economy. Hotels, restaurants, and even Portland's famous food trucks are reporting significant declines in international business, with some locations closing altogether. The ripple effect doesn't end with Portland. Across the U.S., entire regions dependent on international business and tourism are feeling the squeeze. From the East Coast to the West, American airports are seeing fewer international flights, fewer connections, and fewer travelers walking through their gates. It's not just about the airports themselves. It's about what those airports represent. They are, after all, the entry points to a city's culture, economy, and opportunities. When they lose their international connections, cities lose their global influence. The impact extends to trade as well. For decades, American airports were vital hubs for the global movement of goods. They helped facilitate everything from electronics to pharmaceuticals. But as international passenger traffic has decreased, so too has cargo efficiency. Airlines are cutting back on flights, meaning fewer opportunities for global shipments. Cargo operations that once flowed through U.S. airports are now shifting to neighboring countries, particularly Canada. Shipping companies are increasingly opting for Canadian airports like Toronto, which offer smoother operations and fewer delays. This shift is more than just a logistical issue, it's an economic one. Each cargo shipment that passes through a Canadian airport instead of an American one represents lost business and influence for the U.S. economy. The decline in air traffic is leaving a gap in American trade, with long-term implications for industries and workers that rely on international commerce. So, where does that leave the United States in the global travel landscape? The rise of other international hubs and the decline of American airports signals a profound change in the way the world travels. For the first time in decades, America is no longer the center of global travel. And as travelers seek out more convenient, welcoming alternatives, the U.S. faces the daunting task of reclaiming its place on the world stage. As international travel to the United States continues to dwindle, many of the cities that once thrived on global visitors are now witnessing firsthand the consequences of the drop in airport traffic. For decades, American airports served not just as gateways to the country but as hubs of cultural exchange, business, and tourism. Today, some of these cities are struggling to adapt to the shifting dynamics, while others are witnessing the slow erosion of their international appeal. Newark Liberty International Airport, once a convenient gateway, now a headache. Consider Newark Liberty International Airport, once a shining example of American aviation efficiency and convenience. Situated just across the river from Manhattan, Newark was a favorite for travelers seeking quick access to New York City without the chaos of JFK. For years, it was praised as the quieter alternative, a place where you could land without the overwhelming crowds. But that image has all but vanished. Today, Newark is less known for its convenience and more for its frustrations. International passenger traffic through Newark has dropped by a staggering 68% since 2022. Airlines that once relied on the airport for international connections have been quietly pulling back. Emirates, for example, has reduced its services, and Virgin Atlantic has shifted much of its operations to JFK and even Boston. The decline in Newark's international traffic is tied to a series of operational challenges, including chronic delays, overcrowded terminals, and severe understaffing at key departments such as air traffic control. For many international travelers, Newark has become synonymous with long lines, missed connections, and delayed baggage. The experience has soured the once appealing notion of a smooth arrival into the United States. What was once a straightforward, no-hassle entry point into New York City has become a stressful and inconvenient stop for weary passengers. Even worse, Newark's reputation for inefficiency has spread rapidly on social media. Travel blogs, forums, and online reviews are filled with complaints about the airport's shortcomings. Travelers who once considered Newark as a viable option are now seeking alternatives like Toronto, Boston, or even European airports that offer a far more seamless experience. This growing perception of Newark as an airport to avoid is causing significant damage not only to the airport but to New Jersey's economy as a whole. With fewer international passengers, hotels, restaurants, and shops near the airport are struggling to attract business. What once was a bustling economic zone is now feeling the financial strain. Boston Logan International Airport, a decline in academic and cultural tourism. Boston Logan International Airport has long held a special place in the hearts of international travelers, especially those coming to experience New England's academic and cultural treasures. With world-renowned institutions like Harvard and MIT, and historic landmarks like the Freedom Trail and Fenway Park, Boston's appeal was undeniable. For decades, Logan was the gateway for students, academics, and cultural tourists eager to immerse themselves in the city's rich history and intellectual culture. But in recent years, Boston has seen a significant shift in its global tourism landscape. Since early 2023, international passenger traffic at Logan has fallen by 59%. The decline has been most pronounced among travelers from the United Kingdom, Germany, and Canada, countries that once formed the backbone of Boston's international tourism. The reasons for this downturn are multifaceted, but one of the most significant factors is the growing difficulty of obtaining U.S. visas, particularly for international students. Boston's universities were once magnets for students from all over the world. However, visa delays and a more restrictive entry process have made the U.S. a less attractive destination for those looking to study abroad. As a result, many prospective students are now turning to alternatives in Canada and Europe, where visa applications are processed more quickly and the overall entry process is far more straightforward. The ripple effects are being felt across the city's economy. Hotels that once catered to international students and academic visitors are seeing occupancy rates drop below 50%. Restaurants, cafes, and retail districts that thrived on international spending are now struggling to attract customers. Even cultural institutions like museums and theaters, which once saw a steady stream of overseas visitors, are reporting lower attendance numbers. This decline in international travelers has become particularly detrimental to Boston's hospitality industry. With fewer international visitors coming for business, academic conferences, or cultural events, the city's economy is facing a downturn. The loss of these high-spending tourists is compounded by the fact that fewer international flights are arriving at Logan, making it harder for travelers to even reach the city in the first place. Miami International Airport, a shift away from Latin America. Miami, long known as the gateway to Latin America, has been one of the hardest-hit airports in the U.S. The city's position as a cultural crossroads between North and South America has made it an essential hub for travelers from across Latin America. From Argentina to Brazil, Colombia to Mexico, Miami was the primary point of entry into the United States for millions of Latin American tourists and business people. But this once vibrant flow of international traffic has seen a dramatic slowdown. Since 2023, international passenger traffic from Latin America to Miami has plummeted by 64%. The causes are varied, but one of the most significant is the increasing difficulty of obtaining a U.S. tourist visa. For many Latin American travelers, the wait for a U.S. visa has stretched well beyond 6 months, making spontaneous travel to Miami nearly impossible. In contrast, European destinations have become more attractive alternatives. Many Latin American travelers are opting for trips to cities like Madrid, Lisbon, and Rome, where the visa process is faster and entry is more straightforward. Moreover, the surge in the value of the US dollar has made vacations in Miami feel prohibitively expensive, further deterring Latin American travelers. The impact of this shift is being felt acutely in Miami's economy. Hotels that once thrived on Latin American business are now reporting occupancy rates of less than 40%. Upscale shopping districts like Bal Harbour, once filled with wealthy Brazilian and Argentine shoppers, are seeing a sharp decline in foot traffic. Miami's cruise industry, once a major draw for families from across Latin America, is also suffering, with passenger volumes dropping significantly. Airlines, too, have responded by cutting services. LATAM Airlines, which once operated a robust network between Latin America and Miami, has reduced its services by 30%. American Airlines, long a major player in the Miami-Latin America corridor, has scaled back operations and consolidated flights. These cuts have made travel less convenient for Latin American tourists, further reinforcing the trend toward Europe and other destinations. As the once dominant role of U.S. airports fades, the rise of new global hubs has reshaped the travel landscape. Airports in Europe, Asia, and the Middle East have increasingly become the gateways to the world, offering travelers a smoother, more modern experience that's making American airports look outdated and inefficient by comparison. This shift is not just a temporary trend. It's a sign of a larger, permanent change in the global travel industry. The rise of Dubai, Singapore, and Doha, the new global crossroads. In the Middle East, Dubai and Doha are rapidly becoming central points in the global air travel network. Emirates, based in Dubai, has built an empire of international flights, connecting passengers from every corner of the globe to the Middle East and beyond. Dubai International Airport has set the standard for luxury, efficiency, and convenience, with travelers flocking to the airport not just for a flight, but for a 5-star experience. Its stunning architecture, state-of-the-art facilities, and exceptional customer service make it one of the world's most respected hubs. Doha's Hamad International Airport, with its sleek design and cutting-edge amenities, is quickly becoming another dominant player in global aviation. Qatar Airways, the national carrier, has expanded its network at an incredible rate, offering travelers easier access to the Middle East, Asia, and Africa. The combination of world-class facilities and a rapidly growing network of flights has made both Dubai and Doha top choices for travelers seeking the shortest, most efficient connections. These Middle Eastern hubs offer something that American airports, mired in bureaucratic delays and aging infrastructure, struggle to match: a modern, hassle-free journey from check-in to takeoff. For international travelers, these airports provide comfort, convenience, and luxury experiences that are now increasingly expected, not just desired. As a result, many passengers are choosing to transit through these Middle Eastern airports rather than dealing with the complex entry processes at U.S. airports. Asia's aviation powerhouses, Singapore and Hong Kong, lead the way. Across the Pacific, Singapore's Changi Airport has long been regarded as one of the best airports in the world. Changi's efficiency, innovation, and customer-friendly services have set it apart from its global competitors. With lush gardens, movie theaters, and a swimming pool, the airport goes beyond the bare necessities of air travel, creating an environment that makes the often stressful airport experience something to look forward to. Singapore Airlines, the country's flagship carrier, has expanded its global reach, making the airport even more appealing to international travelers. Hong Kong International Airport has also maintained its status as a key global hub, serving as a critical point of connection for flights to and from mainland China and the rest of Asia. Hong Kong's strategic location and modern infrastructure make it an indispensable stop for both business and leisure travelers looking to access the Pacific Rim. Like Singapore, Hong Kong has capitalized on offering a seamless travel experience, one that emphasizes efficiency and comfort. In these two Asian hubs, international travelers encounter a stark contrast to what many face when flying into the United States: efficient immigration processes, smooth connections, and minimal delays. These airports focus on the needs of the modern traveler, offering services that not only meet expectations but exceed them. It's no wonder that more and more passengers are opting for transit through Asia rather than America, especially as U.S. airports struggle to update their aging infrastructure. Europe's major hubs, Munich, Frankfurt, and Istanbul, offer strong competition. Meanwhile, Europe is not sitting idle. Cities like Munich and Frankfurt have seen massive investments in their airports, positioning themselves as critical global gateways for both passengers and freight. These hubs offer world-class amenities, streamlined connections, and strong networks of direct flights to destinations around the world. Munich Airport, with its extensive network of international flights, has emerged as one of Europe's most important aviation hubs. Frankfurt International Airport, Germany's busiest airport, has long been a major player in European and global aviation, connecting Europe to destinations across the globe. These airports are not just efficient but also well-positioned geographically, making them essential in Europe's role as a crossroads for global air traffic. But it's not just the traditional European heavyweights that are competing for global attention. Turkey's Istanbul Airport, which opened in 2018, is rapidly becoming one of the busiest airports in the world. Istanbul's strategic location between Europe and Asia gives it a unique advantage, allowing it to serve as a bridge between two continents. The airport has been designed to handle a staggering number of passengers, with ambitious plans to become the largest airport in the world. With this level of investment and foresight, Istanbul is making a strong play for dominance in the global aviation industry. As these European and Asian airports continue to grow and improve, American airports are being left behind. The infrastructure in places like Munich, Frankfurt, and Istanbul is modern, efficient, and designed with the traveler in mind. In contrast, U.S. airports, particularly those in smaller cities, have struggled to keep pace with the demands of modern air travel. The impact on U.S. prestige and economic influence. Every time a traveler chooses one of these global hubs over an American airport, the U.S. loses more than just a passenger. It loses a piece of its international prestige. American airports once symbolized the country's global leadership, but today, they are seen as inefficient and increasingly irrelevant in the eyes of many travelers. This shift is not just about inconvenience, it's about the perception of American strength and influence in the world. The more international travelers opt for European, Asian, or Middle Eastern airports, the more America's position as a global leader in air travel and commerce slips. This loss of prestige has real-world implications. As international passengers bypass U.S. airports in favor of more efficient, modern hubs, the U.S. loses out on millions in tourism revenue, business opportunities, and cultural exchange. Airports like JFK, LAX, and Miami, once the epicenters of global trade and tourism, are no longer the first choice for international passengers. Instead, travelers are choosing places that prioritize speed, comfort, and ease qualities that American airports can no longer guarantee. And it's not just the travelers who are feeling the effects. The U.S. economy, which has long relied on tourism, business travel, and cargo shipments, is facing a steep decline. International tourists are spending less time and money here, while businesses are increasingly looking elsewhere to establish international partnerships. With fewer direct flights, international events, and reduced cargo efficiency, U.S. cities are starting to feel isolated from the rest of the world, as international travelers increasingly bypass U.S. airports in favor of more efficient, modern hubs. The question arises, can America reclaim its place as a leader in global aviation? The decline in traffic, prestige, and influence at many of America's key airports signals that the country may be losing ground in an industry it once dominated. But while the situation is dire, all is not lost. There are still opportunities for U.S. airports to reverse this trend, provided they take bold steps to modernize, streamline operations, and create a more welcoming environment for travelers. The need for modernization and infrastructure investment. One of the most glaring issues facing U.S. airports is outdated infrastructure. Many of the nation's busiest airports, including those in New York, Los Angeles, and Miami, were built decades ago and have struggled to keep up with the increasing demands of modern air travel. Long lines, outdated terminals, and insufficient facilities make the travel experience less than pleasant. For many international travelers, this has become a significant deterrent to choosing the U.S. as a destination. To regain competitiveness, American airports must prioritize infrastructure modernization. This means upgrading terminals, improving security procedures, and investing in state-of-the-art technology that can make the airport experience faster, smoother, and more enjoyable. Airports like Singapore's Changi or Dubai's International Airport have set the bar high, offering services that go beyond basic needs. For example, Changi's iconic butterfly garden, free movie theaters, and a variety of dining options transform what could be a mundane wait into an enjoyable experience. U.S. airports must aim to offer similar services that not only meet but exceed the expectations of international travelers. Equally important is the need for improved efficiency. Long security lines, immigration delays, and cumbersome baggage claims contribute to the negative perception of U.S. airports. By investing in streamlined processes, automated systems, and quicker turnaround times, U.S. airports can ensure that travelers spend less time waiting and more time enjoying their destination, creating a more welcoming and efficient visa process. Another major barrier to attracting international visitors is the cumbersome U.S. visa process. Long wait times for visa approval, coupled with stringent entry requirements, have made the U.S. FLANET less appealing to foreign tourists, business travelers, and students. Countries like Canada and those in the European Union have made efforts to simplify and expedite their visa processes, which has given them a competitive edge. If the U.S. wants to reassert itself as a global travel leader, it must address the visa bottleneck head-on. Streamlining the visa process, reducing wait times, and making the application system more user-friendly would make the U.S. a far more attractive destination for international travelers. This would also have the added benefit of encouraging international students and workers to consider the U.S. as a viable and efficient option for academic and professional opportunities. Collaboration with global airports, sharing best practices. Rebuilding the reputation of U.S. airports will also require collaboration with international airports. Rather than trying to compete solely on the quantity of international flights or traffic, American airports could benefit from learning from their counterparts in the Middle East, Europe, and Asia. By adopting best practices from these airports, whether it's customer service, efficiency, or innovation, U.S. airports can transform their operations to meet the demands of today's global traveler. For example, Dubai International Airport's approach to integrating luxury services and seamless connections could be replicated in American airports. Singapore's emphasis on passenger experience could serve as a model for U.S. airports looking to improve their overall customer service. Working with international experts to improve infrastructure and streamline processes could give U.S. airports a much-needed facelift and restore some of the prestige they've lost. Leveraging America's cultural and economic strengths. While the decline in airport traffic is concerning, it's also important to remember what still makes the U.S. an attractive destination. America has unmatched cultural, educational, and economic resources. From its world-renowned universities to its diverse landscapes and thriving industries, the U.S. remains a magnet for international business, education, and tourism. However, the key to maintaining and growing that appeal lies in how the U.S. positions itself on the global stage. By emphasizing its strengths, whether it's academic opportunities, cultural landmarks, or business connections, the country can continue to draw international visitors, even if the process to get there is more complicated than in other destinations. Still, this can only happen if U.S. airports and travel policies are modernized to create an experience that matches the country's global reputation. The rise of European, Asian, and Middle Eastern airports is a wake-up call for the U.S. In order to remain a key player in the global travel industry, the U.S. must invest in its airports, reimagine its visa policies, and work harder to present itself as a welcoming, efficient destination for international travelers. The stakes are high. The longer the U.S. waits to make these changes, the more entrenched these new global hubs will become in travelers' minds. The future of American airports. Can we bounce back? Ultimately, the future of U.S. airports will depend on the country's willingness to evolve and meet the demands of the modern traveler. The era of dominance by American airports may be over, but the opportunity to reclaim that title is not out of reach. By embracing innovation, improving customer experience, and streamlining entry processes, American airports can once again become the world's premier gateways. The path forward will require significant investment, collaboration, and a shift in mindset. However, if America can rise to the challenge, it will not only restore its international standing, but also ensure that future generations of travelers still view the U.S. as the ultimate destination, efficient, welcoming, and ready to connect the world.